Gemini long context evaluation contest, I just wanted to show our submission. So we do have the notebook, but first I wanted to show how the service we have built looks like. So our service actually gets documentation for open source libraries. And in the background, we use Gemini to automatically take the source code of the library and convert it into a documentation in Markdown format. So this is how it looks like. You can give any uh, Python or NPM library as input, and then you will get an output, the documentation for that library. Now, the idea is that this documentation can be used in a coding assistant like Cursor, Copilot, or even in ChatGPT. So you can copy it and you can use it as you like. Now, let me quickly tell you how our notebook looks like. So this is our Kaggle notebook. You'll see that we have the model name in the front, and then we also have a fallback model. What we do is we use the Gemini Flash 8B model as a fallback if we get rate limited by the 1.5 Flash model. We have a set of max tokens and we take the API key to run the model. So let me just quickly show the main function, which is the summarization. So this is the main function of the package. It takes a package type and a package name, and then it tries to summarize the package to create a documentation. While getting the package name, we actually extract, depending on whether the package is a PyPy or NPM. We go ahead and download the contents of the package, and then we extract all the files. And then we go through the files to process each direct file in the directory. So this is the method which processes the directory. While processing the directory, you'll see that for each file we try to create the entire file content. And then we look if we are nearing max tokens. So we use the model.count tokens to see how many tokens we have processed so far. And then if we exceed max tokens, we chunk the file. So we chunk the files into sizes of max tokens, and then we give it to the model to process. So you can look at the actual prompt that generates the summary. So the entire content of the file is dumped directly into the context of the model. And we say analyze the package source code and create a comprehensive summary. And they ask the summary to include some of the functionalities in it, right? So we just give this to the model, and the model will generate a nice formatted markdown for us to use it as a context in coding assistance. So you can see here the use of the fallback model. If we receive some uh, rate limiting error, 429 error from the API, we'll just fall back to the 8P model, and then we'll use that to generate it. When we chunk the summaries, we take this, when we chunk the repository, we actually take the summaries separately, and then we combine them in this another prompt. So this is the prompt that is used to combine the model summaries. Now, once we have this, you can actually see how it works. So I have an example here. So I just take the same example with the PyPy package, and then we have a package name, and then just call summarize package on it, right? And then once we have the summary, we actually run a few queries using that as a documentation. Now, the query method is where we implement caching. So just to show you how this works. So in the query method, we already get the summary, which is the documentation generated from Gemini. And then we have a list of user queries which use the documentation as a reference to answer questions. So you can see here that we create a cache. And in the cache, we put up the contents, and the content is the entire documentation that we get. So the subsequent calls that are made are actually made with this cache in mind. And then as an example, I'll just show you for this particular documentation of these queries, how it looks like. So this is the query. This is the response that comes from the model. And we also print some stats here. So you can see that the tokens were 1344, the total token count was this, and the cache tokens were always 1332 because we use the same documentation and ask multiple questions, right? And finally, just to show you how quickly all of this works and our ability to process more than 100,000 tokens, I just have a very simple method here, which takes a data set, a CSV data set, which is a list of top packages or libraries from PyPy and NPM. So we just go through each of them and we try to generate the documentation. So you can see here that these are the popular libraries like Request, Flask, Pillow, and the total number of tokens that it processes to generate the documentation and the time it takes. So you can see we can easily process over 350,000, 450,000 tokens, and so on, all the way. So the top 10 libraries actually in total process 1.4 million tokens under 10 minutes. So it takes approximately like less than a minute to process each library. That's it. Thank you.